What's going on, YouTube? Happy Monday. RDAPdan here, federal prison time. Hope you guys had an amazing weekend. So we're going to jump right into this and apologize if the audio and video is not matching up. Still working on that minor issue. Is what it is for now. Anyway, so today we're talking a little bit about should he go to prison. So we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Somebody I spoke to today that has a real interesting situation, which is pretty mind-blowing to see something like this actually happen. But before we kick into that, make sure if you haven't already done so, tap that bell. Make sure you subscribe to get upcoming notifications. Also, text the word YouTube to 35074. That will make sure you don't miss special notifications like time changes, special events, things like that. I know some of you are having some issues on getting that text through, but all you need to do is text the word YouTube. The phone number you're going to send it to is 35074. Kevin, what's going on, my man? Uncle Dan. Okay. I'll be Uncle Dan today. Uncle Dan. Welcome to Uncle Dan time. So today I got a phone call from an individual, and until I actually looked up his situation, I wasn't really sure what to make of the call. So I can't go into too much detail because he's still waiting to get sentenced, so there's still some stuff ongoing. But he was involved in a potential crime that it was information on a computer, not child pornography, information on a computer that they heard he may have. So when they asked him if he had it, he said no. And when they called him in, he had actually got rid of the computer. So there was really, get off this. There was no evidence of him actually having any involvement at all. Well, he felt guilty. He felt guilty about that, about lying. So he called them back and said, hey, I did have the computer, but I no longer have it. I actually destroyed it, got rid of it. Because of that, they weren't able to charge him for anything pertaining to the actual crime. But they were able to charge him with an obstruction charge for lying to the federal government. Because of that, he's actually looking to get sentenced. And because of that, he's actually going to be looking at going to federal prison, and he's looking at a potential 36 months prison sentence, which we're waiting to find out to see what he gets sentenced to this Friday. Hey, Scott, what's going on, Scott? Reload Dragon, you should meet up with After Prison Show again. Hey, I hope so. You know, I had fun doing that with Joe over there at After Prison Show, so we'll definitely see. But I think it's real interesting for those of you, because, you know, obviously he was honest. Now, clearly he had some involvement to whatever was going on prior. And I see this thing is just going on and off. Stream resumed. Can you guys let me know if this stream is coming through okay, or is it starting and stopping? We've been having issues for the last couple days over here with weather. Hi all. Husband for 18 months waiting to hear where he is designated. Hey Caitlin, how are you? Welcome back. Definitely recognize Caitlin Kelly. She came back to join us. Awesome. Communities method. People helping people. Everybody give Caitlin some warm wishes. Husband, oh, he got 18 months. Okay, 18 months, not the end of the world. You know, good time, halfway house. More than likely, he'll be out in less than a year if he plays his cards right. And if you need any help or you have any questions or any concerns about that, Caitlin, feel free to give me a call, email, text, and we can see what we can do to potentially help him getting some additional halfway house. Because obviously, you know, RDAP's not going to be in the future for him with a short sentence like that. So the topic we're talking about today is when you're under investigation or potentially getting questioned from, you know, when it's a federal a federal investigation, you're getting questions. I think it's real important that you guys don't just take it upon yourself to go do what you think is the right thing. I think in a situation like this, if he had contacted an attorney first and lawyered up, had an attorney with him, it wouldn't have turned out this way. because they had nothing on him. He was completely free and clear. They didn't have any evidence against him, and because of his conscience kicked in, he wanted to go do the right thing, called them back and said, hey, I did have the computer, I did lie, the computer's been destroyed, so I can't give it to you, but the computer's gone. Because of that, he's now actually going to be going to federal prison. It's just a matter of how much time. Now, we are helping him with his personal narrative and his character reference letters. Granted, he gets sentenced this weekend, or I'm sorry, this Friday. So we're working on that as we speak. But the big thing with him is going to be, hopefully the judge can see that, hey, he took it upon himself to do the right thing. They wouldn't have an obstruction charge on him if he hadn't decided to go back and say, hey, I did make this mistake and lie to you guys. So he did the right thing. He's going to suffer consequence for it. If he would have had proper legal defense earlier on, it may not have been an issue. This may not, we may not even be talking about him right now, because he probably wouldn't know that I exist, because he wouldn't be online looking to prepare to go to federal prison. He's got tons of medical needs, waiting for a kidney transplant. So the guy's in a real serious situation, and we're hoping that the judge can see this if it's conveyed properly. We didn't have the amount of time that we would typically like to work with a client, but at the same time, we did read his current letters, his personal narrative, and definitely it needs some work before the judge is going to be reading that. So that's what we're working on with him. Let me read a couple messages here. Becky G, I bet he would have still gotten time even if he told the truth to begin with. You may be right, Becky, but when he told him he didn't have that computer, he was he was out of the crosshairs, because there was nothing, there was no information. And you may be right, they may have found another way to come back, but this just goes to show you that, just because you think you're doing the right thing doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to be rewarded with not prison time. And in the same token, maybe in the large scheme of things, maybe this is what he needs to go through to better position himself in the future, so he doesn't make these types of choices or decisions. So maybe there's a larger plan ahead of him, and maybe prison's a part of that plan. For so many of us that go to prison and come out of prison with looking at life different than how we looked at it going in, and not necessarily negative, looking at it through a positive aspect of how prison can change us, what you can learn about yourself while you're in prison, programming, taking it serious. If you actually put in this energy while you're in prison, you really can come out redefined and reinvent yourself. So I have to give him credit for at least being honest when he did that on his own. No good deed goes unpunished. Is that the saying? Hey, Mike, I had speed doubled from 12 to 24, but your live stream still looks like a Godzilla movie from the 70s. I don't think it's your internet, man, and I don't think it's my internet. I think it's the RAM in this MacBook I have, and it's a MacBook with Retina, and you can't upgrade the RAM on there. The RAM is like soldered onto the motherboard. So it looks like my only option is to possibly upgrading. And I love this freaking Mac, man. This thing has been amazing. It's gotten me through some tough times, but it may be time for an upgrade. So I apologize. That's why I like doing some of the pre-recorded videos, because it doesn't give that issue with the looks like a Godzilla movie. That's hilarious. Are the rest of you feel like you're watching a Godzilla movie? Is it choppy? I would appreciate some feedback. I pulled down the other video. I didn't realize how bad the audio was on the live stream we did on Saturday. I wish you guys would have told me. Somebody said the audio wasn't that great, but when I went back and listened to it, I was using a different microphone, and holy moly, I yanked that video down in the quickness. It might be after a video we need to redo. So some people have good audio and video reception, some people don't. So I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of what's going on. Anyway, so talk a little bit also. It's pretty nasty over there in Texas and what's going on. It's looking like a third world country over there right now. Hey, Scott, Kimberly, thank you. Kimberly says it's bad. Scott says it sounds good. Dave says it sounds good. So I don't know. I'm going to have to replay and play back and see how it looks. I apologize for those of you that are getting a bad reception. We'll blame it on Texas. We'll blame it on the weather in Texas. But Texas is getting hammered really bad, and it's looking pretty serious. There's a lot of people stranded. We saw people with their children and their animals. We are going to be sending over some donations to to the relief over there, to Red Cross, to help out, do what we can. Shelly's also running promotions. As you guys know, Shelly has a hair salon here in Spokane. So she's taking a portion of every haircut and donating it over there. So we are trying to give back a little bit, because I remember what it was like in Florida when we got hammered really hard several years back with those series of storms that we got hit in the early 2000s. And it definitely wasn't pleasant at all. Blame it on Enron. So the moral of this video, guys, and the topic of this video is, if you're under federal investigation, don't just take it upon yourself to go start cooperating without having some sort of legal assistance, because you don't know. You think you might be doing the right thing, and it ends up flipping you on your back and not working out to your, not only not working out to your benefit, but as you guys know that have gone through the system a little bit, they can play nice and pretend like they're your friends and they're, you know, they're your buddy, and yes, help us. And then you think that by doing all of this, you're not going to get prison time, or they're just going to give you probation. Even though they never say that, that's just kind of the illusion they allow you to keep thinking. So make sure that you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, get yourself an attorney before you go start cooperating with the government. Or tell the government, if you can't afford an attorney, tell the government you're willing to talk to them, but they need to provide you with an attorney. They can provide you with an attorney prior to your indictment, just like my situation. Pre-indictment, they actually assigned me a federally appointed attorney prior to me being indicted to work with. So it just depends on the situation, guys. It can be rough getting ready to go into a situation like this. And that's why we tell so many of you that if you're early on in your case, the best thing you can do is reach out and find out where you're at in your situation, find out what you might be looking at, find out what programs you might be able to qualify for. You know, these are things that we help with the residential drug addiction program, additional halfway house, putting time and effort into these personal narratives and character reference letters. I know a lot of you don't necessarily understand the impact that can have, but those of you that have gone through it and have seen the impact that it has at sentencing, because some of you are still waiting to self-surrender, you know that the impact that it can carry over with. It's like I always say, the only right you have is to, and that's the thing is, you know, that's why they say you have a right to remain silent. It's not because you want to go in there and lie and mislead. It's because you don't want to say something that's going to put yourself into hotter water than you may already be in. Sometimes the best thing you can say is absolutely nothing until you have all of your ducks in a row and you have a game plan to go in there and talk to them, because you can be sure when they're investigating you, they have a game plan. They have a plan on what they're trying to do to either come after you, work with you, whatever it is. They're not going to tell you what their angle is until it's too late. Don't get caught in that web. Go into a federal investigation without some sort of legal defense, because if you do, you're completely leaving yourself exposed. It's definitely important to reach out. We can say what we want to say about attorneys, and you know, they don't know about RDAP, and they don't help people get additional halfway house time, and they didn't tell you how important it was to do your narratives and your character reference letters. That's a whole different subject. What we're talking about is protecting you from not incriminating yourself further, or incriminating yourself, period. You don't know what they actually have on you until you've been arrested or indicted and seen some discovery. If they're just asking you questions and you're just throwing everything out there because you're afraid, that might not necessarily be the best situation that you can put yourself in. And talking to this client was a perfect example of, in your mind, doing the right thing doesn't have the best outcome. He's now going to suffer some consequences for doing the right thing. And that's just the way life is. However, prior decisions, prior choices may have led him into that situation to begin with. So we still only have ourselves to blame in the end, but don't make things worse for yourself if you don't need to. You guys saw the video that I posted, Club Fed. I found some good information online, some videos from, was it CNBC, that they had done where they actually went into these federal prisons recording it, and it didn't give the best description of federal prison, because like the federal prison I was at was definitely nicer than the federal prisons that they interviewed in. But the point was, is you can see that there's not a whole lot of danger or security risks when you're in a camp or a low type of a setting. And that was the main the main description that I wanted to get out there. So many people are terrified of the thought of what they think prison's going to be like when they're comparing it to what they've seen on TV, you know, Oz and things like that. So showing that, and these guys that are going through the system, a lot of these were white collar criminals, and that's the other. I don't want everybody to get hung up on, you know, club fed or a prison camp or a prison low is only for white collar criminals. Now you'll see a lot of people focus on white collar criminals when it comes to like prison consulting and whatnot, because the idea of a white collar criminal is usually a financial crime. Normally in these financial crimes, these white collar criminals, white collar defendants were making quite a bit of money, which means they can afford quite a bit of money when it comes to legal defenses, when it comes to hiring prison consultants, you know, being able to pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for a prison consultant is a drop in the bucket when you just got done spending, you know, 50, 100, 200 grand on your legal defense. The important thing to remember is whether you're a white collar criminal, a nonviolent drug offender, a first-time offender getting ready to go to prison, if you're going to be heading off to the prison for your first time and you're looking at going to a camp or low type of a setting, the fear and the anxiety is the same for the white-collar criminal all the way down to the guy that doesn't have $50 to his name. The difference is the guy with $50 to his name is going to find a real hard time getting a prison consultant or a coach to work with him to lower that anxiety, because that prison consultant is so focused on charging 10, 15 grand per client. This is the reason why we do what we do over here at Federal Prison Time, not wanting it to be just this web that only captures people that have tons of extra expendable money. People that are going into prison for the first time, the fear and the anxiety is so real that many times it can result in trying to hurt yourself, trying to disappear, trying to run, trying to lie to the government, making really poor decisions. Not because you're afraid of prison, but your idea of what prison might be like is so far off from the actuality that causes really poor decision making. So I feel like if we can continue to put these videos out, if we can continue to keep our services affordable for anybody and everybody, whether it's a nonviolent drug offender who's got $25 to his name, or to a $10 million Ponzi scheme white collar criminal, the fear of prison is exactly the same. There's no difference. So it's been targeted differently, but that's all from a standpoint of view for what you can charge in marketing. We try to do it a little bit different over here, as you guys can see. We try to keep it real. We try to keep it raw. We try to bring as much realistic content as we can through social media, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We continually put stuff out there. And I know there's a lot of people that do not appreciate what we're doing. There's people out there that feel like if you committed a crime, you should do the time. And I'm not saying that's not true, but that doesn't mean you should be filled with fear and anxiety from where it is you're about to go. So because of that, and because of what I went through with my own situation and what Shelly went through with her situation, we know what you guys are going through, and we try to make ourselves available and accessible to anybody and everybody that sees the benefit in what we do. So good or bad, rain or shine, RDAP Dan and Shelly and the crew, the writers, we've got a great team of people, guys, that just love working with you guys. So again, we appreciate everything that you guys have been doing. We appreciate all of the respect and the content that you guys comment on. Make sure that if you have the ability to share these videos, if you have the ability to, if you haven't already subscribed, those are some of the biggest things that you can do. At some point, this YouTube channel will get to a point where it's self-sustaining financially, and we no longer will need to charge anybody for these services. That will be the ultimate end goal. Don't know how long it's going to take, because it's not like a market that everybody's interested in. Not everybody's facing federal prison time. But every day we see this channel growing. Every day we get new comments. We get people that are just finding us for the first time. So it's just a matter of time. The little snowball's getting bigger and bigger, and other people in the industry are starting to notice. So that brings heat. And heat tries to melt your snowballs. That video looked like kind of like propaganda video from the BOP. I'm sure they had to get it. Oh, yeah. You know, as you can see that video, you know, they said first time in 15 years getting cameras inside of a federal prison. But the picture was still painted. You know, they didn't want to make it look super cushy. That's why they picked probably that particular prison. But even in that environment, which looked like shit to me, living in that environment looked real bad. It didn't look dangerous. Then that's what you guys need to take from that. They really did what they could to make the video as rough looking as possible. And it was still a pretty easy situation for almost anybody to deal with. These guys aren't in danger. They're not getting beat up. They're not getting violated. They're going in, doing their time, and getting out. Some of them are already out. Another guy gets out next year, and then the third guy, he gets out in about 2 years. Good stuff, Dan. One of my co-defendants is going to Montgomery. Okay. Dave? We got Crystal. We got Kimberly in the room. We got Becky. We got ladies' night tonight, huh? I thought Wednesday night was ladies' night. Free drinks for all the ladies in the house. Non-alcoholic beverages only on Federal Prison Time with RDAP So your club soda is coming right up. What's up, Juan? That's one of the locations my lawyers keeps talking about. Juan, just remember, I've got guys that are at those prisons, and they've even told me that it's not as bleak as the video portrayed it. You know, we have to believe that video, if they really showed, because they say there's no tennis courts. There are tennis courts. There was tennis courts at my prison. The basketball court also was able to turn into a tennis court. You could rent the net. They had the post in the middle of the basketball court. You would set up the tent. It was an actual tennis net. It didn't have the fence behind you, so when you missed the ball, you know, you're spending a lot of time chasing balls. And some of the guys there, you know, they had people that were standing over there waiting. Whoever's going to be playing next, that would be something that they would do, is go down and chase things. But tennis, volleyball, I mean, there's a lot of activities going on in federal prison. A lot of stuff that you can do to keep your mind busy, your spirit busy, focusing on reinventing yourself, not allowing your time to be wasted. You know, you don't want to go into prison with the mindset of, I'm just going to sit around, watch TV, eat bad food all day, and not do anything productive with my time. You've got classes, there's RDAP, there's the non-residential drug addiction program if you're really trying to get help, even if you can't qualify for RDAP. There's AA, there's NA, there's different college courses, there's all kinds of business courses. So they say that prison doesn't offer education, and it doesn't offer programs that are going to cut back on recidivism, and it does. The problem is you've got to be willing to initiate it. They're not going to make you do it. And the only thing they may make you do, if you don't have a GED, they may make you do your GED, but anything else above and beyond that, it's going to be up to you what you want to do. So if you want to go in there and waste your time, you can go in there and waste your time. If you want to go in there and be really productive with your time and come out better than when you went in, that's your choice. And that's why preparation for your release from prison needs to start now. If you start now, you can start making a plan for what it is that you want to do. I've seen so many guys in prison that every day they're planning, taking notes, they're built, you know, regardless whether or not they're going to do whatever it is that they're planning for in prison. It's helping them with their time, and they're expanding their mind. A lot of these business courses, they had an Uber course in there. There was a guy that was teaching how to own your own Uber business, and not just drive for Uber, but how you can purchase cars and lease them out and hire Uber drivers. They had investment bankers in there. They had guys that were teaching real estate classes, credit restoration, how to fix your credit, how to repair your credit, how to start a credit repair business. There's all kinds of different directions for somebody to go into. And the point of that is, something that you may be interested in is going to exist there. You just have to figure out what it is, what you're willing to do, if you're going to take these classes every day or every week, whatever it's going to be. But you're never going to go, man, there's nothing to do. What am I going to do with my time? That doesn't happen. Books, exercise, classes, reading, making different meals. I've got somebody that emailed me that's getting ready to go to prison, and they're actually a chef. By trade, not by career. They're in, I want to say, I can't remember if he was in real estate or mortgages, but he's in real estate to an extent. I don't know if he was on the real estate side as far as mortgage brokering, or if he was on the real estate side as far as brokering the deal for the purchase. But he's a chef by trade, and he feels like he doesn't know how do you cook like an inmate. You know, it's not like you have all these fancy tools. So he's been bugging me to make at least one video on making some prison food. So I thought maybe get your guys' feedback. I don't want to get too far into that direction because that's not what this channel is. But maybe we'll do a fun video, and we'll do a prison fried rice video showing you how we actually make fried rice. And the thing is the reason why I thought that would be a good one is the food, the rice that we would make in there is so tasty and delicious. Not the best thing in the world for you. So tasty and delicious that to this day, when Shelly and I are going to, you know, whatever we're making at home, if we decide we want fried rice, we make it ourselves, because I've never had fried rice like this. I've never been anywhere that prepares fried rice like this. And it's just, it's an amazing ability to be able to do something like this with a microwave and rice. And that's all, you know, so it's pretty neat. So I think maybe we might make that video. I got to make the fried rice video before I go. Dan, what about jobs? Is it desirable to work in the kitchen? I hear positive things about it. Dave's asking about jobs, desirable jobs versus undesirable jobs. And kitchen for me would have been an undesirable job. Kitchen is a lot of hours. It's manual. You're sweating. The benefit to it, if you do not have commissary, you're low on funds, you will eat good because you're in the kitchen, so you're getting leftovers and you're getting some of the staff food, so you're probably going to get a little bit better of a menu from time to time, which guys did. We used to see them all the time, and they'd make sure, look, when somebody gives you something unique, you want everybody to see it because it's like, hey, look what I got. You know, it gives you that. Everybody wants a piece, and these guys out with these burgers and these salads, and it was real, you know. But I wouldn't work in the kitchen. I had money coming in from the outside. I was fortunate enough to save enough money knowing I was going into prison to plan for how long I was going to be there to make sure that me and Shelly would be covered for what we needed to do while we were in prison. And I had it figured out down to pretty much the week. My last 2 weeks there, I noticed like, wow, I really budgeted this pretty well because that's when we ran out. But if you need a job and you don't have money, the kitchen's probably one of the better places because you get to eat good. But these guys were working, a lot of them worked 2 different shifts. They'd work an early morning shift starting around 3 or 4 in the morning because they got to get in there and get everything prepped, being that breakfast starts getting served at 6 a.m. So you're in there several hours prepping it. Then you go in there usually again right before lunchtime and you start prepping again for lunch. Or you go in right before dinner time and start prepping for dinner depending on what crew you're on. So it just depends on your situation. I wasn't really looking for a job while I was in prison. While I was in RDAP, they want you to work. It's part of the requirement is looking and finding a job. So I was able to strategically place myself in a weekend sweeper job, which just meant on the weekends I would get a broom and a dustpan and I would walk the compound from about 6 to 6:30, just sweeping up stuff off the compound. It was nice and cool out, had my music on, just did my own thing, sweep up, walk up to one of the COs that was on duty. He would mark my name off of a list and boom, back to my bunk. Or I'd usually go out and work out for a couple hours in the morning, come back for count, go to lunch. I mean, Saturdays were always my favorite day in prison. Saturdays, Sundays, I didn't really care too much. Saturdays was my absolute favorite day in prison. Wake up, go do my little job, come back. Sometimes I'd read, sometimes I'd listen to some music. I'd go walk the track. It's cool in the morning, weather's nice, got your cup of coffee going. Everybody's just in a good mood. Just like Saturday mornings in the real world. You wake up on a Saturday morning, you feel fresh, you take your shower, get out and about. It's like that in prison. You get out, you're walking the compound, you're going and talking to your neighbors, you're finding your little group that you're going to go walk with. You might have, and you have several different groups. Like I'd have my group in the morning that I'd go sit with and drink my coffee. Usually it was the older men, like guys that were like anywhere from like 50 to like 70. There's an old group of guys, Italian guys. They'd sitting out on one of the picnic tables. They'd all have their coffees out there telling crazy mafia stories. So I'd go out there and they all liked me because I was way younger, but I gave direct respect, didn't disrespect them. Yes, sir. No, sir. Good morning, sir. You know, how are you doing today? Get to know them by name. Having that kind of relationship with different people really helps you around the compound, because you never know when you're going to need something from somebody, and being able to go almost to anybody. You know, later on in the night, because I was doing a lot of the credit restoration, I really became popular with the ethnic groups, Spanish, black, the black guys, the Spanish guys. They were really into trying to figure out how to repair their credit and start credit repair businesses. So once they found out that I was running one of these classes in education, it was, they would just find me out in the yard and walk around and talk to me and ask me questions. And they gave me my distance and my respect, knowing that I didn't want to do it 24/7. And I was vocal about that, saying, hey man, right now I'm like off the clock, you know, but if you want to ask me a simple question, that's fine. But I'm not looking to get into the credit repair 101 while I'm walking the track listening to my music. But it allowed me to play additional sports that I wanted to play without, you know, getting any weird looks. I could go play basketball. I could go play softball. If I wanted to play football, I would have. But man, there's just some fucking giants out there in that football field. And even though it was two-hand touch, it was more like two-hand touch tackling to the ground. So I wasn't looking to break any bones. You know what I mean? Dry bones. I have no money for an attorney. Sorry, I'm reading some comments in here, catching up. So dry bones, let me go back. Hi, Dan. I believe I'm currently under investigation. I believe that the federal government is trying to prove I was faking it and accuse me of fraud. How should I handle this? Look, dry bones, if you're going to talk to the federal government, you need to let them know that you can't afford an attorney. And before you say anything else to them, you don't want to incriminate yourself. Would like to have an attorney appointed to you. It's pretty much that simple to get it started. Finding out, you know, you're in a good position, because if you are going to get indicted, you're in a good position, and nobody wants to get indicted. Dry bones. What, can I call you something other than dry bones? Like, do you have a first name you want to go by there? But you want to make sure that you can position yourself later on for potential things like the residential drug addiction program. You want to make sure you've got your personal narrative and your character reference letters prepared, ready, that you're doing things. What are you doing with your time now? Other than, you know, I know you're freaking out under federal investigations, freaking out because federal investigation typically leads to federal indictment, and federal indictment typically leads to sentencing and going to federal prison. But it's not the end of the world. It's just how you deal with that time. So I would say reach out to me if you can, and you and I can have a conversation. We can find out if there's something that we can do to help you. If your financial situation's rough, we've got plans for everybody, man. So the best thing you can do is reach out to me tomorrow. Shoot me a text during this video if you want, with just your name and a good time for you and I to chat tomorrow, and I will give you a call, because I went through what you're going through. I know what it's like. Dry bones, if it's federal, you'll get a court-appointed one, and there's a pool of very good ones. That is correct. Jim Bowers, they'll give you an attorney before even talking to you. Jim Bowers, you'll be a target letter if they're investigating you and plan to indict you. So you're getting some information, Bones, from other people that have gone through it as well, you know. And that's the good thing about coming into this room, is it's going to allow you to explore and expand on information that you don't already know about yet, give you some ideas and some insight as that you may want to take. I was thinking about seeking asylum overseas because of mistreatment of mental health. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a great idea or a bad idea. I've had other clients that have tried, and it has not worked out to their benefits. You know, federal government's got some pretty strong reach. So, you know, that's up to you how you want to handle that. But, you know, that's not going to be the end-all, be-all answer. You know, at some point you're going to want to put this stuff behind you. But yeah, so having a community in prison that you can connect with is important for how you're going to do your time. And the only things that I wish I had done different while I was in prison was prior to going, I wish I had known a little bit more to check about my detainer. I didn't know I had an open case. I wish I would have known about that. That would have allowed me to go to a camp versus a low. That also would have allowed me to get into RDAP about 2 months earlier, which instead of serving 13 months, I could have been done in 11 months. Little minor things like that would have made a big difference. I wish I would have known about prison consulting and prison coaching, and I wish I would have had a better understanding of what was to go in a personal narrative and a character reference. Our case that I was involved in was when I say a weak case, they didn't have really a lot of evidence against us. The only thing they had was people within the indictment started folding and freaking out because of the fear factor of what they thought they were looking at. Being able to put together narratives and character reference letters properly may have had an impact on how much time I would have gotten sentenced to. Potentially, probation could have been on the table. These are things that I can't ever know now because I didn't have the ability or the wherewithal that a lot of you have by being able to go on to YouTube and watch these videos. And that's why these videos out, because we know what hurdles we came across. And we know that if we just knew basic information, that would have opened up so many additional possible doors. So we want you guys to have all of the possibilities that exist so you can make the right choice and not just the forced choice. What's up, Edward? Long time no see, brother. Glad you can make it back in the room. They don't send me... Well... They've got some pretty intense medical facilities that are designed for with mental health issues. It's a different type of a setting, but I think it's important. Prisons are really bad in the U.S. for mental health patients. That I'm not aware of, and I'm having some serious issues over here with the internet. It's going up and down. I can see it. It says video, very low output. So the internet is definitely dropping off tonight. I hate it when it does this. I apologize. And we just boosted our internet too. So we've got like top of the line Comcast. I guess it's just not in Spokane. What is the best in Spokane Valley? People are like, what's in Spokane Valley other than seasons? We've got seasons. That's about it. What are seasons? If you live in Florida, you may not know what seasons are, but we have like winter, summer, spring, fall, all that stuff. But other than that, there's not a lot here. We are in the market. We are looking for a house. We are going to be buying a house hopefully here in the next few months, and we don't know where we want to live. We don't know if we want to stay in Washington. We don't know if we want to go back to Florida. My children are in New York, so maybe looking at New York, upstate area. I'm not prepared to try to live in the city. For what we could afford living in the city, we would have a very small shoebox. But upstate, we could have a decent property upstate. So these are some things that we're doing in our world, in our life. If you guys like to follow what rdapdan is doing, rdapdan's looking for a house. So yeah, guys, I'm going to check and see what's going on with this video. So if I do lose you, I'm about to check and see what's going on with this internet here. If I do lose you, make sure, if you haven't already subscribed, you do so. Share these videos. Pray for Texas, guys. Texas is going through some serious stuff right now. Make sure you pray for Texas, because they're flooded. You've got children, you've got animals over there that are women that are just waiting to get rescued. They're telling people to hang sheets in their windows to let them know that they need rescuing. So it's pretty serious. It doesn't look like it's over yet. They're saying the dam in Colorado is getting so overflowed that it may break and cause that much more catastrophic damage. So it's pretty serious. Dan, all the people you know that sought asylum overseas. No, I'm not saying that they failed. I'm saying that certain situations arise and they realized it wasn't the best outcome. One of them's in the room right now. Juan Carlos was looking for some asylum at one point. I don't know if he's still here or not. I'm not saying they failed. I'm just saying that make sure you know what you're getting into. Unless you've been to these countries and you know people in these countries, just really think about your options. You haven't been indicted yet. you know, obviously you probably have a passport or you don't have a passport. I don't, you know, if you want to call me tomorrow and chat about it a little bit, find out, see where you're at in the situation, you know, maybe we can reduce some anxiety, reduce some stress just with a short phone call. But anyway, guys, I'm going to check this internet. So if I lose you, I apologize. And if I do lose you, we had a 40-minute video. We'll see how bad the video is here. But RDAPdan, federal prison time, communities method, people helping people every single day. I'm going to check this and see what happens here. Here we're checking.